Hi. So I want to make this video because I just think it's important. I don't think people talk about um, like faith and hope and I don't know these sort of more metaphysical things that you kind of need to like live your life, but you don't realize it when you're not living with it. Um, that's kind of the reasoning behind the video. But this video is basically about The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty and why it really affected me for some reason, and I really think I was, um, supposed to read it to help me in some way. That might sound crazy to some people or not, but, I think that things come in your life for certain reasons, and you don't even know why until, um, it kind of clicks in your head and you kind of finally realize it. But anyway, so, I guess I'm just gonna give a little backstory to the whole thing because, there was a time when I never would have even watched The Exorcist, or read The Exorcist, or even looked at The Exorcist, um, because I was like terrified of it. But anyway, so I had started this job as a nurse, and long story short, it was really hard. It was just physically draining, mentally draining. The area it was in was, the population was, poor, they were sick, and, they were angry. Um, I'm not gonna like say where it was or anything like that because I don't want to like, do HIPAA or something like that. But for the most part, it was a difficult job, and I was, suffering from compassion fatigue. Um, it's something some health workers go through, but I think most of the time, where you sort of have to be nice to people. I mean, you can't talk back to people, and I'm sure salespeople deal with this too, but if they're mean to you, I mean, you can't do anything. And it's understandable the patients are mad, and, um, I don't know, like, I don't want to get in trouble with anybody, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus because I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to get the situation across. And another aspect of it is it can be, a disgusting job at times, um, just by the nature of it. And it can take a toll when someone's, um, angry at you, and then you got to deal with their bodily fluids and all this other stuff, and you also are trying to keep them alive and all this stuff. Um, it's just, it's draining, and it's psychologically difficult to deal with at times. I'm not saying it isn't, you know, possible to deal with, but, it's just what it is. And for me and my, personality, I'm not, my friend, she's a nurse, and she's just one of those people that just genuinely loves caring for people, and I mean, I think there's like a tolerance of like, I think everybody wants to care for people, but I think there's a tolerance of, some people just are here and they love helping, and that's just who they are. And then some people are here. Well, I'm here. Like, I don't have a lot of patience. I never once yelled at any of my patients or anything like that. You know what I mean? I always did everything could help them, but um, I think that they have a certain level that they reach and they're just burned out, and I think I'm just more burned out because of just kind of who I am. But whatever. I mean, like, some people, they can just take just abuse after abuse. I mean, it's not abuse, but hit after hit after hit, and they're fine. They're not burned out, and they don't feel apathetic. Um, and I'm sorry for the length of this video. It's going to be a long video. Anyway, they don't feel apathetic or anything, but I was getting to the point where I was just feeling so apathetic and like feelingless. I don't know. You know when you help like a nice grandma and you feel all happy inside or whatever. It was just getting to the point where it it was just so draining, and I felt like, you go into it because you want to help people. Um, and I went into nursing more because of the sort of data side, um, and the science side. So for me, it was just, you know I'm just talking about my own personality wise. It was just more difficult for me, I think, than some of my coworkers. I'm sure it was really difficult for them. I'm not gonna lie, but anyway, you just start to question, who am I? Am I this? I don't even care about this person that's sick. I don't even, they're puking, and I'm just like internally retching. You know what I mean? Like thinking, oh my god. When I don't want to think that, and I don't. Nothing against those patients. I intellectually you understand, but um, I think you just suppress it, so much or something. I don't know, that you start to just wonder who you are as like a person, and if you're actually a good person, what is a good person, and you know you think like, well, Mother Teresa just loved cleaning people's feet, you know what I mean, or whatever. Anyway, so it was kind of this point where I was just getting really, really, really burned out. And it was like around Halloween, and I had never seen the movie Halloween, and I started listening to like the soundtrack because I was gonna watch it with my friend, and I started listening to the soundtrack, and then from there I started listening to the Exorcist soundtrack, the Tubular Bells, and I got super super into it. I just would always listen to it like on the train ride home, just um, whenever I did and could to like chill out. Um, but anyway, um, and prior to this, I never ever would have even looked at The Exorcist because um, my family is um, one side's Irish and the other side's Italian, and they're Catholic, both sides. And I was always taught from a really early age never to play with Ouija boards, never to like touch any of that, and that really stuck with me because it freaks you out. And I was scared of being like possessed myself, like as a kid. I mean, um, since then I had like read books about like demon possession, and I realized you can't unless you like accept the demon or something. I don't know, but which is sort of like why you shouldn't play with Ouija boards and stuff like that, because you're sort of inviting your stuff in. But like, I mean, whatever. I'm not telling anyone to not play with the Ouija board. I'm not telling anyone to play with the Ouija board. I'm just saying from my own personal view. Um, it's I was terrified of it, and I thought like I will never watch The Exorcist ever, never. Um, but for some reason I like was really drawn to it, and I kept on listening to music, and then I was like, okay, I want to watch it, and my friend had it, right, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to watch it, but like I was like, I don't really want to watch it, and I would go back and forth on wanting to watch it and not wanting to watch it. And it's not like I don't watch like horror films or anything like that. I just, you know, um, because I had watched like Carrie as a kid, the I think it was the '90s version, and that had really freaked me out because whenever I was like scared, Um, the computer was dying. Anyway, whenever I was scared of stuff as a kid, I would always like, you know, think about God or say a prayer or something like that, like to protect myself. I mean, but since I watched that movie, like I was like freaked out because like the mom was like this crazy religious person or something like that, and I was like, you know what, no. And that really freaked me out. Like Carrie really freaked me out like as a kid. I was like, you know what, no. I'm never gonna watch like a religious ish thing that's related to horror because it's just gonna like terrify me. And I was like, I'm never watching Exorcist. Anyway, so but I was really like drawn to it. I was so drawn to it. I don't really know why. And I think it was like a spiritual drawing. And I'm not like this super spiritual. I mean, I guess I'm pretty spiritual, but I'm not like this super, and God told me to do this or that. You know what I mean? Like I'm not that person, but it just um I don't know. I mean, I just feel like I was supposed to read this book and it was supposed to help me. Whether that be fate, whether that be destiny, I mean, I don't know. Whether that be God, whether that be, my guardian angel telling me to do it, I don't know. But for whatever reason, I believe that the book was put in my life and the movie was put in my life for a reason. And anyway, so I was always terrified of it. And I I also was sort of a person that's not, you know, um, I was always sort of not exactly a faithful person, you know what I mean? Like I'd always question everything and like I would always read books and stuff like that, but I never could accept there was nothing or anything like that. And that's why I'm still, I'm still a Catholic now, but because I just, I could never accept that there was nothing or anything like that. But I went through a period of time where I didn't feel like I had any faith or anything. But anyway, I mean that's gonna come back later when I'm talking more about the book. But and I would, if you've ever seen The Seventh Seal, um, by Ingmar Bergman, it's a movie, and it's basically this knight, and he's talking to death, he's playing a game of chess with death, and he just wants to know that so there's something at the end of his life. I mean, he doesn't even care what it is. He goes and he there's this witch that's put on trial and she's burned, and he looks into her eyes like before she dies, and he's like, "Show me the devil, show me something." He doesn't even care, and because he's just so wrapped up in not being annihilated. But and I feel like I used to be like that, but I was just so terrified. But I'm not really sure why. But I mean, I think everybody has these sort of ups and downs in faith. That's just the way it is, or it wouldn't be faith. Um, whether something happens in your life or it doesn't happen in your life, and you're just, even for the super faithful like Mother Teresa, she had doubts of her own. It's just the nature of the concept. But anyway, I digress on that route. Um, I think everyone can relate to that. I mean that's gonna come back later with some of the characters. But anyway, so that had always been a struggle of mine too, and I always tried to surround myself with people that were had a lot of faith, and really were positive people. And if you watch The Seventh Seal, not to go back to that, you should watch it if you can. But there is a character that's it's a jester type character, and he actually sees visions of the Virgin Mary and I think Jesus. I haven't watched it in like years, but because he's just joyful and living his life, he's not being bogged down by it all. He sees things because he's not he's just living. The whole point of that movie is, I mean, I don't know the exact point of the movie, but a part you can take away from it is like you can't if you're always focusing on these metaphysical things like super metaphysical things, not just like black holes, um, that you can't possibly understand, then you sort of can't participate them in some weird way. But if that makes any sense, it like takes the, I don't know. I'm not a film expert, so I mean, go watch Ingmar Bergman's Seventh Seal. Anyway, um, so I felt really drawn to the book. I mean, not the book, the movie, because you're really into film and all that. So I ended up watching the I was like, you know what? I can't watch the film because I'm too scared. So I'm gonna watch these analysis videos online, and it'll just like tell me what happens in the film, and because I had done that with like Eyes Wide Shut and stuff like that, like films I didn't really want to watch but wanted to know about. So it'll tell me about the film, and you'll get the gist, and it'll, you know, tell me what it's about so I won't be shocked if I end up seeing it. So I watched all the videos that Rob Agger did. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's Irish or British. I think he's Irish, but um, those are all really good videos actually. It's like the first one I watched was I wrote on this card, excavating the Exorcist, and he kind of goes through the whole entire beginning section of the Exorcist, um, which is really cool. But and those videos were really good, and I but I actually have a point later I'm gonna make on a point that he made about the the Exorcist and why I think it was. He said there was I'll get to his analysis later of like the actual his critique on it, and because I wanted to look at a point he made that I don't agree with. But anyway, so he so I made those videos, and I was like, okay, it doesn't seem that bad, and so I was sort of easing myself into it, and my friend had let me borrow the DVD, and I wanted to watch it, but I didn't want to watch it alone. Because my sister worked nights and I worked days, and I didn't want to be alone in case I was terrified. Because I had already I'd watched what was it? That new film where the girl's head gets chopped off. Whatever, that had freaked me out, and that was kind of demon possessed too. But anyway, um, what was the name of that film? Oh shoot, I don't know. Anyway, so I basically wanted to watch it, and I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna watch it. So I watched it with my sister, and I watched it, and I didn't end up being that terrified, which really surprised me, because the film, it's set up so well. If you've seen it, you'll know it's set up so well that it eases you into the story, sort of like a lobster. I mean, there's this thing that you put a lobster into cold water and then slowly heat it up, it'll like boil itself. Sort of like that. They sort of, slowly give you the clues, slowly ease you into it. So then you're not terrified. You, I don't know, it's set up really well. And the movie is a really, really good movie. Um, and so when I saw the movie, I was what I saw in it when I watched it, I was struck by the uh I mean, there's like different layers of this film book affecting me. But anyway, the first layer of the book was Father Karras, that stuck with me. I don't know if you've seen it, go see it and read it or whatever. But anyway, Father Karras, who's the main priest in the film, who's also a psychiatrist, who he's sort of lost his faith because his mother was sick and he couldn't really take care of her, and she ended up dying alone. sorry for the spoilers. She ended up dying alone, and he could have been this big psychiatrist, because he went to, I think it was Harvard. I don't know. He went to a really big school, and he's a really talented psychiatrist. But he's also a priest, and so he needs to go where they tell him to go, and he can't make all that money, that a psychiatrist can make, because he's a priest, he's a Jesuit, and that's just not a part of it. So his mom, could have been set up, and he felt guilty about that, and they do a really good job in the movie, showing these sequences of the mom and then him, and so you really get a feel for it. But it's not really until you read the book that you can really, really understand it. So I'm telling you what, watching the movie, this is the layer I got, then the second layer I got from the book. Anyway, so first layer I got, Dr. Harris, he's losing his faith. He doesn't know if he wants to be a priest anymore because, they're all about faith. And he's supposed to be helping others, and he doesn't think he can. So, there's one scene where he's getting on a train, and there's this homeless guy, you know what I mean? And he's like, "Father, I'm a Catholic, help me. Would you help a poor altar boy?" And he ignores him, because he's repulsed by him. He's covered in urine. In the book, you find out more. He's covered in urine, all this stuff. And but then he ends up. I don't know if this is in the movie. In the book, he ends up giving him $1 or something. That was going to be his cab fare or something. And he gets on the train. But he tries to ignore him at first. I don't know if he ignores him completely in the movie. I'd have to rewatch it. But anyway, so he's repulsed by this guy. And later in the movie, the demon, takes over Reagan's body and everything. And one of the things it says to him is it quotes this. It can mimic everybody, and it quotes the guy in the subway. It goes like, "Father, don't you have money for a poor altar boy?" You know what I mean? And it's sort of using what he thinks makes him a bad person against him. And something about that stuck with me. Sorry, I had to get my phone. Anyway, something about that stuck with me, and I kept thinking about it. And how that kind of immobilized him, like the demon had gotten into his head, and it made me sort of reflect on it. I hadn't really put two and two together at this point because I hadn't read the book yet in my own life, but it made me reflect on it, and I was thinking, oh, isn't that interesting how it manipulated him by using what he thinks is makes him a bad person or whatever, right? I don't know if that made any sense, but it didn't really make sense to me at the time. I just thought it was an interesting part to it. And anyway, so I thought, oh, that was interesting, whatever. Went on with my life a little bit. And my work got even worse for me, and I ended up quitting the job. And I ended up moving home to Michigan. And I also quit because I sort of had to deal with family. But whatever. Anyway, whatever. I ended up quitting, and I was really just broken up about it. Um, like so broken up about it. I just remember I would just cry all the time on my breaks or whatever it was because I just was getting nothing out of it. Um, I felt so drained and like I felt so repulsed by people, and I'm just gonna straight out say it now. I just felt so repulsed by people, and I just felt such a um, you know, a dread, um, because I just didn't know if I could do it anymore. I was scared about the person I was. Did I even care about anybody? Um, who is repulsed by sick people? What kind of person is repulsed by sick people? They deserve compassion and all this other stuff. And I thought, like, there's not one compassionate bone in my body. Like, I honestly, like, don't know what to do. But, at the job, I did everything I went out of my way for these people. I mean, um, as much as I possibly could. I mean, even if I didn't want to. And that's gonna come back in later. But even if I didn't want to, I did everything I could. But it was just hard to deal with. And it's not like this for every single person. I was on a particularly tough floor, and it was just a tough population because there was a lot of really poor people who were like really sick, and they just didn't have the resources, and so their illnesses it got to that point where it's just they're just almost devastating. So there's a huge emotional aspect to it, and they're angry, and they don't know why they're sick, and they'd waited because they can't get the test because they don't have the money for it, and they don't go for regular checkups, and they think they go to the doctor thinking like, oh, they're just gonna fix me, and it just ends up they just have bad news, and you're the person there. You're the person there, and there's level transference onto you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Just the way it is. Anyway, so um, yeah, I moved back, and I was, basically like devastated, like emotionally devastated, and just thinking like, what's the point? I mean, like, you, you don't want to fail, and then on top of it, just um, thinking that you're not a good person. The thing is, I didn't really, me, normally in everyday life, I don't even think about that. I don't even think about being a good person. I'm fine with it. I don't care. It's more to me about being like an honorable person. So for myself to be questioning it, it was like unconscious basically. Um, it's very weird. It was weird for me because in my mind, I don't think anyone's a bad person. I guess I never really worried about me being that person. I guess it was more like, you know, who am I? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It sort of screws your identity, but whatever. I mean, it's really hard to explain. The words don't connect with what I'm trying to explain, but I hope it's understandable. But basically, I was having sort of an identity crisis with myself, and who am I? Am I a is there any sort of caring in me at all? And just weird questions like that. But anyway, I was gonna go to my grandma's to chill out, and I honestly I was like, I don't know how I can get a job again. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know how I'm gonna emotionally deal with stuff. Um, because I'm not really an emotional person. Um, at a young age, I had always told myself, emotions, they're not, what do you call it? They're not rational or something. I don't know, I'd always step back from them. I guess I just never really cared that much, but, you gotta, um, acknowledge them is what I realized. Or they just, bite you in the butt, but whatever. Sort of besides the point. Anyway, I was going through this, crises or whatever it was. And, I had bought Bad Blood or whatever because I wanted to listen to it, and, it was on my dad's Amazon Prime or whatever, and so I had downloaded it, but he also had the Exorcist on there. And I ended up finishing the, Bad Blood. And, so I was like, oh, well, you know what? This is a really big, long flight. It wasn't that long. It was 2 hours. And, I'll just start this or whatever. Um, so I ended up starting it. And, I was, stuck at the airport or something. I don't know. I ended up listening to a lot of it. And, I was really drawn in by it. I can't really explain it. I was so drawn into by it. I would, rewind. I would be like, I gotta listen to this part. I gotta make sure I know all this part. Something in me needed to, really absorb this book. I don't know why. Anyway, so I basically, listened to it, and I just really related to Dr. Karras. I feel like this video is gonna be so boring for people, but I really related to Dr. Karras because here's this guy. I mean, he's sort of like a nurse on some level. Here's this guy, and he has to help people because that's who he is. But he's having this, crises. But he can't opt out. He's got to help these people, and he can't be mean to them, because that's not what his role is or whatever. And I also liked how he was this psychiatrist, and he basically um, he had to rule out all this stuff, before he could get demon approval. I mean, not demon approval, um, exorcism approval, right? And he basically um, had to do all this sort of running on no faith. Um, had to keep working, and I don't know. I just related to him. I can't really describe why. Like I thought I could, but I can't. Just what who he was, and also um, also that he I think that I related to another level too is that you know, I want to do animation and that stuff too, and he wants to do psychiatry. He's talented at it, but you know he can't because he also has another obligation to these people because he's a priest. So it's like I really related to it because he's torn in these different paths, um, but he's got to do what he should do, and I don't like doing what I should do. It's annoying. So um, but anyway, so I really related to him, which was cool. Also, I liked that Chris in the book, she's an atheist, right? And also really rich. And I was watching the like analysis video that Rob Agger did or whatever, and he was basically saying like they made her like that, so basically she, well, not really the atheist part, the rich part. So she has all these resources, endless resources, and she can't find the answer, and so she has to turn to supernatural. And I also related to her. I don't know, like all these characters were just very relatable. I don't know if they're relatable to everybody, but you know they probably are. um, you know, I really believe that Dr. Karras was just like one of the best characters ever written, honestly. Um, but anyway, I liked her character too because it's like life sort of forces you to believe certain things and change your view whether you want to or not. And just because you want to believe something is true doesn't necessarily make it true. Just because your worldview is a certain way and you think you're always going to think that way, you have no kind of you have no what is it? You have no sort of control of the ultimate um, effects on your life, um, the outside effects on your life. At the end of the day, something really weird could happen, and then it changes everything about your life. And that's kind of what happened to her. And these things in life are painful, you know what I mean? But it sort of makes you who you're supposed to be, or something. I don't know. But anyway, so I got to the end of the book. I'm just gonna give you some quotes that like really resonated with me. And after I read I'm gonna read the one quote. I realized I was like, and this is why I had to read this book. This is exactly why I was supposed to read this book. Whether I subconsciously knew I had to read the book, or whether there was some, God wanted me to read the book. Who knows? You know what I mean? But my mind needed the book, whatever, for whatever reason. So, I'm just reading the thing. Oh wait, it's on this one. Okay. So Marin at the end, he's the exorcist that comes, and Dr. Karras assists him in the exorcist. But anyway, he speaks to Karras as to the whole point of this movie. Okay, the whole point of this movie, I believe. I'm not gonna speak for William Peter Blatty, but anyway, the whole point of this movie to me was that here's this person, and they're Reagan. She's possessed by this demon, and she's so disgusting and so filthy, and she's puking and all this stuff, um, which people do in the hospital. And she's screaming obscenities, which people do at the hospital. She's throwing things at you. People do it in the hospital, and they have done it to me. So that's sort of, I think that she's supposed to represent um, all those things, all those um, things that can repulse us about humankind. Anyway, how mean we can be, how you know, you know, um, evil we can be to each other. And this is why I think he had said that, she pukes up the green fluid, and he's like, well, I think that was a bad choice because red would have been way more jolting. Yeah, I think red would have been way more jolting for a movie in horror, but that was not the point. The point was that it was disgusting. And sure, blood's disgusting, but it's not. It's not. You got to read the book to really understand. I think he read the book, but whatever. You really got to read the book to really understand the disgusting nature of it. The secretary was going in there and like changing the sheets because she would just like pee and all this stuff, and there was disgusting stench and all this stuff, right? And that's more the point. But anyway, I'm gonna read the quote. So this is Marin, the Exorcist, telling Karis. So he says, and he's basically talking about. I think that he's basically talking about how he can do this for Reagan and help her, whatever it was. I think talking about like, um, helping these people that repulse you or whatever it was. Okay. At last I realized that God would never ask of me that which I know to be psychologically impossible. That the love which he asked was in my will, and not meant to be felt as emotion. No, not at all. He was asking that I act with love, that I do unto others, and that I should do it unto those who repelled me, I believe, was a greater act of love than any other. Um, so yeah, and like I read that. I was actually listening to it because it was in my dad's Kindle or whatever it was, and it like immediately spoke to me. And I realized this before, but for some reason it like didn't resonate with me. Like I already had known that it was will and all this other stuff, because I had read a lot of books on um what is love, and I don't know, Four Loves and C.S. Lewis and all that stuff. But anyway, um and it like really spoke to me, and I felt so much better after I heard it. Like I can't even tell you, it was so weird, but whatever. Anyway, here's another quote that Marin said. I think Dr. Karras was asking him about what the point of the possession was, or whatever it was. I think that the demon's target is not the possessed. It is us, the observers, every person in this house. And I think the point is to make us despair, to reject our own humanity. Damien, that's the name. Dr. Karras' name is Damien. To see ourselves as ultimately bestial, vile and putrescent, without dignity, ugly, unworthy. And there lies the heart of it, perhaps, in unworthiness. For I think belief in God is not a matter of reason at all. I think it finally is a matter of love, of accepting the possibility that God could never love us. I mean, no, wait. Of accepting the possibility that God could ever love us. Sorry. Anyway, so yeah. And there's like other quotes, but those were the two that I really, um, that really, spoke to me or whatever. But, and I feel better to this day. I mean, I feel so much better. It really, truly changed my life. The Exorcist did. And I find that so weird. And I was so um, crazy about it that I wanted to write like William Peter Blatty and like be like, thank you for writing this book, but he died in 2017, which was sad. But anyway, I also I also wanted to talk about the movie versus the book. After reading the book, I thought about the movie, and the movie is way more poignant, and it won an Academy Award. The screenplay, way more poignant in that when Dr. Karras says there's a point where Marin dies, and then Dr. Karras um, is going to what?